All right, the other thing, how do you how do you win with guys off the street? And I'm not going to go through all these names. I mean, you know all the names now. People have been writing about them in Detroit, and we've talked about these guys. How do you do it? You put veterans on the practice squad, and then you elevate them when all these injuries occur. 18 guys on IR, three-fourths the defense really is down of their top 20 guys on defense. Probably 60% are out for the year or on IR. Or you sign veterans off the street. Now, had the shoe been reversed? So what? How did they do? I mean, they did beautifully. All these guys, O'Connor from Eastern Michigan, come on, Pat O'Connor, Muhammad the ex-Colt, Jamal Adams is out there running around, David Long. I mean, do you believe this? Nowaski from Sag Valley, Ezekiel Turner, Broderick Martin finally gets a uniform, the second round pick, and he was terrible. Jonah Williams, the ex-Ram, played 15 snaps. He was good. All these people. How do you do it? You have a great personnel department. That's how you do it. Let's look at some of these names for once. Everybody says Brad Holmes. And yeah, he's in charge, and I'm sure he looks at a ton of tape. But there's others now who are sifting through all kinds of names all the time with an organization with Campbell and Holmes who are willing to play veterans. So who does it? Rob Lohman, he's been there 18 years. He's director of pro scouting. You got Ray Agnew, assistant GM. He's involved in pro. You got John Dorsey, senior personnel executive. I'm sure he's involved in pro. You got Dwayne Joseph, director of scouting. Joe Kelleher, Lohman's assistant director of pro scouting. And there's one other pro guy. Pro guys, as you know, they're in-house. They watch tape of the 31 other teams all year round. College guys are scouting college players. They're out on campus. You got two distinct departments in every front office. And Justin Licker, a pro scout. Okay. So that's a wonderful job by these guys. Granted, they had the opportunity because injury. They had the opportunity to ply their trade. Say, Brad, this guy, I've looked at 15 inside backers, and I like David Long better than the other 14. This is our recommendation of our department. Brad says, let me look at Long. He spends half hour. Bingo, they sign Long. But these other guys are spending all these hours looking at tape of all these guys around the league. All right. What if it had been Green Bay suffering 18 guys on IR, 60% of their top 20 players out? What would they have done? They're the youngest team in the league. They've been the youngest team in the league since Ted Thompson took over for Mike Sherman in 2005. Yeah. Brian Gutekunst has done basically exactly what Ted did in the youth department. What would they do? I'm looking at their practice squad right now. I don't see anybody that's really ever been in the league more than a cup of coffee. They play young guys. When they move somebody, Robert Rochelle is on the roster now. He played a couple of years with Carolina. They don't have veterans. I mean, they don't want those veterans. I don't think they could come close to operating as successfully as Green Bay, as Detroit has with this avalanche of injuries. I really don't. Tyler, you got any thoughts on those two before we get into the individuals?
You put it beautifully, Bob. I always felt bad for the Packers pro department on the beat. I mean, because they're doing the work, they're watching the film, they're digging through hours and hours of tape and giving these recommendations to Ted Thompson, and everybody kind of knew the deal. Nope. This undrafted safety. I know we always pick on MD Jennings. He's like the first name that pops into my mind all the time. We're gonna give MD Jennings 800 snaps, right? We're not going to sign a veteran who is like somebody else, like kind of for better or worse. It's like looking down upon somebody else's player. Like, no, we value our guys, our system. And there is a real value to draft and develop. There is, I'd argue that Brian Gutekunst definitely has gone the veteran route more than Ted Thompson in free agency, and maybe spent a little bit more money. But when it comes to week one begins and attrition sets in, and you suffer injuries, and you need players to step in to roles on the fly, yeah, they wouldn't take the Lions approach because it almost looks funky from afar when you first see it. Like Allen Robinson signed to the practice squad, Tim Patrick, Jamal Adams. It's weird. Like we're so trained to think practice squad is some name with vowels jammed together in ways we've never seen before. And it's just nobody's heard of this player from this college that maybe you heard of that's in Division Two, but he's a 6'6" tight end. So they're gonna just throw him on the practice squad and let him develop. Like that's one way to do it. And maybe, that scratch off lottery ticket works and you hit it big. But the Lions are they're going for the $5 win on the scratch off, if we're using that analogy, right? Like
Yeah.
they're plugging in a player, they know what they're gonna get, and Dan Campbell's coaching kind of does the rest. I mean, you can just feel the energy. It's electric. I mean, that post game speech, are you kidding me? That was awesome. I mean, they all are. It was also hilarious. I loved the shot at Dan Skipper puking his guts out.